60 seconds, one story. Today's a very special video. We're going to look into democracy, the right to assemble, the executive powers through the police, and the rule of law. And we're going to look at it in the context of an Israel-Palestine protest over the weekend in Melbourne. And we're going to look at it as an example, a almost perfect example of how democracy operates and should look like on the ground, and also an example of policing at its very best. Please don't get involved in any politics about Israel, about Palestine, about police, about rebel news, about other people. It's not what this video is about. We want to... Okay, so what you're seeing is a Jewish protest. They're set up on the street in the path of the oncoming Palestinian protest, which sets a bit of a showdown between them and the police and what the law says.
So it's hoped we can stand here peacefully protesting, as is our right under subsection 6.
The world understand that, and that'd be fantastic. But obviously our role is to ensure there's no breach of the peace, so that you're safe, they're safe, and obviously other members of the public are safe. But again, not wanting to encroach on anybody's human rights, or as little as possible. So our role is to keep the peace and make sure that everybody is safe.
So what this shows you is there is a tension, right, between laws, and which is going to take priority is up to the discretion of the police on the ground. So on the one hand, we have a right to protest. On the other hand, there's a responsibility of the police to keep the peace. If someone was to be hurt during any sort of protest like this, it would be probably held to pay for the police involved. So that's what we're talking about, a competing priority of rights. See, at the heart of democracy and what we would consider freedom is the idea of plurality of ideas. So we don't just have one idea that's correct. I will say this, there's not too many countries in the world where you could put a flag like that and wave it while another group can burn it and the cops won't really get involved. Now, you're about to see some audio of negotiations between the Jewish, one of the solicitors there with the Jewish group, just before the police make a decision on how they can handle it, and just before the large protest comes through.
They spoke to me. Okay. So I'm the solicitor on duty.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's completely peaceful on our end. It's our hope that they're going to walk past, exercising their free right of protest, and that'll be that.
Yeah, awesome. I just needed to let you know that it's Victoria Police's assessment in terms of whether or not there would be something. So whether or not it's the intention of them to become violent, it's just there's a risk that we have to make, and then we'll issue that and utilise that law accordingly.
It'll be at that point that the legality of the order is brought into question. Yeah.
Yep. If you want to challenge that offline later, you can. You're happy to do that, all right?
Well, it might not be later. That's the thing. It'll be at the time.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Okay, bless his heart, the solicitor, but solicitors, law students, and humans all the time make this error. We are not in the realm of legality here. We're in the realm of policy. Why? Because the executive is in charge. The executive being the police, that is the military, paramilitary arm of the executive, which is, in this instance, the state of Victoria. What this officer's telling him is it will be up to them to make a risk assessment and a determination. And the solicitor's putting his case forward, and he said he'll question the legality. Now, I like what he's saying. Absolutely, he's being respectful. However, he's very, very wrong. You cannot question the legality in the pavement. Otherwise, you might have your face in the pavement. Whatever the police do and decide to do, they will do, and then you can question the legality in court. Okay, so you can see that the die is cast. It's set up here. The police will make a decision. Now, people listening in might think that the solicitor is swaying them. Believe me, they're not swaying crap. It's up to them. They'll make a determination. And we'll see another scene where probably a more senior guy comes along and he's given them final warning.
I want everyone to move around the corner, because we've got an imminent breach of the peace with this group coming through, and a violent confrontation we fear that it's going to occur. Okay, given their behaviour.
Can I ask just quickly, what's the power you're seeking to rely on to enforce that?
The Offences Act allows us to detain or restrain people. So because you're protesting, we can't move you on, but we can use force to detain or restrain you if we believe a breach of the peace is imminent. So that's what we're seeking to rely on, to get you guys to move around the corner until the marks are passed.
Okay, because I've paused it here. First of all, 3 chevrons on his side, on his badge, indicates he's a sergeant. There would be a crown or something like that above if he was a senior sergeant. So this guy's a sergeant, and he's clearly been brought in to let them know the situation. This guy is not mucking around. His language is highly professional. We will seek to under this power. So under the rule of law, you need to have an authority, a legal authority to point to in order to exercise that power. You can't just make it up. It can't be arbitrary. That's what the rule of law means. Now, what he's trying to tell them is that they have the authority to arrest and detain them and remove them if they feel there's an imminent breach of the peace. Now, in normal speak, that means that if they think that shit's going to go down, they can grab them and throw them wherever they want. And they're letting them know that that's the thing. However, they haven't determined to use that power yet, but they also are testing the resolve of the protesters. Now, as soon as the protesters say, no, we're not going anywhere, that's the end of the conversation. And then the police have to make a decision of which of the rules they're going to prioritise. The safety of the public and these protesters, or the right to protest. Welcome to policing. Welcome to democracy. This is not easy stuff.
6 subsection.
I don't know subsections, wait. I don't know subsections, so yep. Sorry, those blokes. Give me a sec.
There is an exemption that's available. You've acknowledged that, the protest exemption. I've asked you to cite.
See, this right here is the mistake a lot of people who are legally trained make. He's still insisting on the exemption, but the police have made it clear that they can't use that law anyway. They're going to use a different law, and that's the common law, breach of the peace, keep people safe, and they can grab you and move you. He hasn't got it yet, but he'll probably get it soon.
Here to cite. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, I'm not relying on that move on power because you're protesting. I acknowledge that, no problems. What I'm seeking to rely on is where we can retrain or just detain or restrain somebody who we believe is going to cause a breach of the peace. That's what we're asking you to do to move.
Peace offence itself is there's a carve out in subsection 5, so that arrest will be unlawful.
That wouldn't be unlawful because it's under common law breach of the peace provisions. So what I'm asking you to do is move on. If you refuse to move on, we'll have to take action to move you on, okay?
There is no common law breach of the peace provision.
Still arguing the toss, still lawyering on the pavement. He's telling the cop that you don't have the power when the cop has already made it clear that he does. Not smart, but very often the mistake that solicitors will make if they're in this situation.
You're saying you won't move on?
None of us are going to move on, officer.
Okay.
There you have it. And then he gets it. Finally, in that moment, none of us are moving on, officer. That then tells the officer all they need to know. They've got to make a decision, rock in a hard place. Do they put themselves at risk and the protesters at risk to protect the right to protest, or do they have the ugly scene of dragging people off the pavement with Jewish flags, and gosh, that would look bad. So I wouldn't want to be a cop in this situation. So as you can see, the police made a decision to form a ring around the protesters, the Israel Jewish protesters, the Jewish Australian protesters, and form a body around them to protect them from the protesters. Now, have a think about it as you see this sort of footage yourself. It is obviously very dangerous for the police. It's very dangerous for young Avi. It's very dangerous for the protesters. And what are they achieving? Bugger all. Let's be real about it. No one's achieving anything here. But this is central to our democracy, the ability for people to speak their minds. Now, I respect this guy, Avi. I really do. I appreciate his footage in this. It's important for all Australians to see that our country is indeed doing the right thing in the right way. So just a quick wrap up. You saw what the police powers are, okay? They express them very clearly. They can issue a move on order, but not in a protest. However, they can detain you and remove you in order to keep the peace, okay? So if in that instance. So you may think that the Jewish lawyer had something to do with it. Not really. As soon as he said, we're not moving, that was then going to be the catalyst for a decision. And the decision was made on the ground to protect the protests, keep them separate. And I applaud the Victoria Police for that. That is how democracy should work. That is how the executive ought to work. And we can be very proud that in Australia, the principles of democracy are being upheld